Mr. Plays, and today I'm going to be going over the champion spotlight for Odin in Marvel Contest of Champions. Roll the intro. Okay guys, so Kabam just released, just a few hours ago, they released a champion spotlight for Odin in the game. So this is all about all of his abilities and what he's going to be doing in the game. So in this video, I'm just going to go over all of his abilities and talk about what I think about him. First of all, let's talk about his mechanics. Odin taps into his Odin Force to gain a variety of powerful buffs, improving his other abilities for each of his unique buffs. Odin also takes advantage of bulkier opponents by scaling his damage with his opponent's max health. To strengthen himself, Odin can enter Odin Sleep between fights to receive bonus buffs. To strengthen his allies, he can grant Asgardian relics to his allies. So, when I first looked over this, he's sort of the Cosmic Apocalypse. He's close to a Cosmic Apocalypse, but he has some other things. He has crossfight ability, he's got sort of like Apocalypse's Slumber, but he's still got a lot of his own thing going on. So, he's a lot like Apocalypse outside of the fight, but when he gets into the fight, he's not, he fights very differently than Apocalypse. So, for strengths, Giant Slayer, his primary damage source is direct damage that scales with his opponent's max health. This gives him a much easier time against tanky opponents with large health stats. And then also, buff variety. Odin has access to many unique buffs for him and his allies, which can last for the entire fight. This makes him great for paths where unique buffs are key. His weaknesses are Nullify and Stagger because he relies on his buffs for most of his damage and for all of his damage and utility. So an opponent that's able to get rid of his buffs will have a much easier time defeating him. Sort of like Symbiote Supreme, those types of champions. And then also his weakness is consecutive fights because Odin performs best when he can alternate fights with his allies in order to gain the effects of the Odin Sleep. If he's used in consecutive fights, he'll become much weaker after the first fight. So we'll talk about Odin Sleep just right now. And this is all based on a 5-star rank 5, level 65, whatever. So first of all, we got Odin Sleep. So what this does at the start of Odin's first fight as an attacker, and every single fight as a defender, he gains Odin Sleep's effects. So when Odin's teammates win a fight, at the start of Odin's next fight, gain Odin Sleep's effects. And this has got me really excited. Odin Sleep grants the following effects. A Fury buff, increasing attack by 2,500, max 2 stacks, and an Armor up buff, increasing armor rating by 3,150 with a max 2 stacks. And guys, I called this. If you fight with him, and then every fight you don't fight with him in a row, then that will maybe give you 1,000 Fury. So yeah, I thought maybe you could when you wait a fight or two or something like that, then you'll be able to go into the next fight with a Fury, and hey, I got that right on the money. Plus, they also gave him armor up, which is also really nice, and I didn't know he would get it at the start, on his first fight, but I'm pretty proud of myself right now. So, and then he's got the Odin Force now. So, when either Odin or his opponent are knocked down, so if you knock down the opponent, you'll gain an Odin Force charge. With 2 of these Odin Force charges, the next attack with an Odin Force effect will consume all Odin Force charges and trigger a bonus effect. So for his heavy, when he hits them, you gain an Energize buff, which increases your combat power rate by 10% for 7 seconds, max just 1 stack. And then if you have Odin Force active on your heavy, you'll gain an Energize buff for each of Odin's unique buffs, increasing combat power rate for 5% for 7 seconds. So if you can get at least 5, and this has a max of 5 stacks, so you can have at least 5 buffs, you get 25% extra combat power rate for 7 seconds, which is really nice. Odin really relies on keeping his buffs active, but whenever he's within striking distance, he pauses the duration of all of his own personal buffs. So what you want with Odin is you want to have a really aggressive playstyle, always be right next to the opponent so you can keep all of your buffs paused and active for as long as possible. So first of all, off his special one, he's got Spear of Legends. On activation, gain a True Strike buff, ignoring armor, resistant, auto block, and evade effects for 7 seconds. But if you have Odin Force, on activation, you gain a Bulwark buff, increasing block proficiency by 700 for 7 seconds with max 1 stack. So Odin has access to 2 unique buffs, run special one, crucial to ramping up Odin during a fight. So this is where his utility mainly comes from. So you get the True Strike buff, so they can't auto block, evade, no armor, no resistance, which is really nice. And even though it's only 7 seconds, while you're within striking distance, it will be paused, just like all of his buffs. And then special 2 is called Lightning Strike. So on activation, you'll pause the duration of all buffs on Odin until the special ends. So you won't have to worry about like a long special tearing, like just losing time on all your buffs. And then the last hit deals a burst of direct damage for each of Odin's unique buffs. And then each of those unique buffs deals 2.75% of the opponent's max health, and that can scale up to 11,600. And then if you have Odin Force on activation, you'll refresh the duration of all your personal buffs on Odin. So the last hit on his special has the damage cap. It scales with his base attack rating, meaning that he can increase his damage cap by leveling up. So, of course, like a 6-star rank 3 will have a higher damage cap than a 5-star rank 5 or 6-star rank 2. So pretty much this will, the amount of buffs you have will do 2.75% of the opponent's max health, and that can scale up to 11,600. But the thing is, if you're doing it against like weaker opponents, then then it will do more damage, because if you're doing it in like Abyss of Legends, 2.75% of the opponent's max health is a lot more than 11,600. So you're not going to do like 2.75% health for every single buff. So he's not the greatest for like super bulky people, even though they said that's one of his strengths. It's just it's a weird thing with him with this damage cap. But if we take a look down here, he's got a nice, I don't know if they put it in here, but if you look at Mangog, he's got a synergy with Mangog where this damage cap is increased by like 150%. So you can do even more damage, which is really nice. And then special 3 called Judgment. You gain a copy of all personal buffs you've gained at any time during the fight. And if you have Odin Force active, you gain an Extend buff, which increases the durations of all buffs by 25% for 15 seconds. So 7 seconds will go up to almost 9 seconds. So you'll have a bit of extra time in your buffs, which is nice. And then also you've got his Allfather Odin's Vault, which is a pre-fight and cross-fight. So this is sort of like Apocalypse. And so Odin can place cross-fight abilities on the next fight from the pre-fight screen, and the next teammate, excluding Odin, that enters the fight, gains the cross-fight, lasting the entire quest. But this is any champion. It's not only Cosmic champions. You can do this on any champion in the game. And so he's got Thrudstock. So each fight you gain an indefinite aptitude buff, increasing the potency of Fury, Armor Up, and Precision buffs by 13%. So if you put this on like, if you put this on someone like maybe even the new Civil Warrior, or if you put it on like Captain Marvel movie, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Hyperion, and just make their Furies be even better, this just makes insane champions even more insane. And if you can stack these aptitudes, which I don't know if you can stack them throughout fights, but if you could do like 2 fights and have 2 aptitudes, that would just be absolutely insane. And then he's also got Drop Near, so each fight you gain an indefinite protection buff, preventing the loss of more than 18% of max health from a single source, and then this buff is removed when struck by a special 3 and does not mitigate the damage. So it saves you from, like, if you just miss a parry or if there's an unblockable special 1 or special 2, but it won't save you in special 3 scenarios. Then this last one is called Stormbreaker. Each fight gains indefinite shock resist buff, increasing shock resistance by 80%. So this is nice if there's a champion or a fight where they're just doing shock damage and you don't have like a thing or whatever to do that, have that shock immunity. So it makes much more champions viable for fights where you're getting shocked a lot. Especially like Hulkbuster, if you're getting shocked all the time when you're hitting into him, you can just put Stormbreaker on any champion and you don't need a shock immune, that's a nice one to have. Then his signature ability is Protector of 9 Realms. When either Odin or his opponent are knocked down, if the opponent has any of the following buffs, Odin will gain a corresponding buff which lasts 7 seconds. So you get a Fury, which gives 650 more attack, Armor Up 900, physical resist by 700, physical energy resist for 700, or critical resistance for 370. So pretty much if the opponent has a Fury buff, and then you knock them down, then you will get a Fury buff. If they have an Armor Up buff and you knock them down, then you'll get an Armor Up buff. So this is nice, but it's nothing too essential. It's nothing too crazy, so it's a nice thing to have, but it's nothing like you really would probably want to chuck an Awakening Gem into. Then we look at Synergies. Now with Mephisto, so for each living teammate, everyone gets 5% more attack rating. Mephisto, for each knocked out teammate, you gain 5% extra attack rating. So it's like the complete opposite of each other. Then you got Odin Sons and Odin Daughters. which is with Thor, Loki, Hela, and Angela. So Thor and Hela, you get 5% extra buff duration for each fight the team has won, and Loki and Angela will get 5% buff potency for each fight the team has won. And then you've got with Heimdall, once per fight, Heimdall will concede on Odin's behalf, dash back and hold block for 1.5 seconds to gain perfect block buff, increasing perfect block chance by 100% for 10 seconds. So for those 10 seconds, you're going to be perfect blocking anything. I don't know if this is just for Odin, or if, like, you bring someone else in and it could do it for them. So I don't know about that, if that'll work. It's sort of like how Heimdall's works on all the other champions. I wonder if you do Heimdall and Odin and then, like, say Ghost Rider or whatever on your team, and then you can use this ability with Ghost Rider. I don't know. But then with Heimdall, his Fury, Armor, his Indefinite Fury, Armor Up, Precision, Aptitude buffs, gain from charging a heavy, gain 15% extra potency. So Heimdall, his Furies don't do too much, but this will give him a bit more potency, so he can have a bit extra damage, which is nice. And then with Hela, so Odin gets 10% extra attack rating while fighting the final node of a quest, but with Hela, while charging her heavy attack, she gains twice as many Fury buffs. And if you can play Hela really well, and you charge your heavy and go to heavy intercepting, you can get a bunch of Furies. And if you can have Odin, you can get twice as many Furies, so you can be hitting, like, so hard with Hela. And then you got with Thor, more armor, with Thor Ragnarok, Hulk Ragnarok, Thor Jane Foster, more armor, Red Skull and Thanos, more critical rating. And then all that stuff. And then also there's this interesting thing where he can also pause, like, dexterity. So if you dodge an attack just before performing a special 2 attack, he can pause his dexterity's precision buff, which increases the burst damage on the last hit of this attack, so you can get extra attack. So Odin, he's looking really nice. I'm really liking this guy. A lot of people are curious about the Odin sleep, thinking that, oh, he won't be good for consecutive fights, which he won't. But the thing is, when I go into a quest, unless I'm doing, like, unless I'm trying to do, like, Labyrinth or Abyss, and I'm just using Aegon every time. If I'm doing a normal quest, like an Act 6 or whatever, I'm almost never using the same champion for every single fight. I'm pretty much going in and figuring out which champions will work for which fights. So this requires a bit of planning, so, like, you know when to, like, rest him up and when to bring him out. But, like, you can just go in, do a fight with him, and then you can do your other fights with, like, your other 2 champions, which you do normally, and then you come back in with Odin, and he has a 5,000 Fury, which is absolutely amazing. So I'm really liking Odin. He's looking really nice on paper. Of course, you don't know how good a champion's going to be until you actually get your hands on him and play them, but I'm really liking Odin so far. And so thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to smash that like button. And if you want to see more content, please consider subscribing with notifications on. And until next time, peace!